The Manual of the Negative One. Forward. The Final Surrender. We all arrive at the moment of truth in different ways. Some through pain, some through revelation. But in the end, all must choose. Will you stay in the illusion, or finally step into who you were meant to be? Dr. Justin Goldston. The end of one journey, the beginning of another. I never imagined it would end this way, or begin this way. Because really, there was never an end, only a realization that the cycle was complete. I found myself alone in Berkeley, California, staring at my own mind, after research at, studying after, deconstructing the way institutions manufacture to keep people trapped after spending a lifetime chasing. Systems thinking, cosmology, and cognitive restructuring at UC Berkeley. Psychic prisons knowledge, influence, and power. I finally understood that. I had been running from myself. It wasn't the negative one. It wasn't the system. It wasn't even the illusion. It was me. The system had trained me to be but it never taught me. Warrior, a strategist, a builder, a disruptor. How to surrender, and that's when I knew. Sovereignty is not about control. It is about release. You do not win by fighting. You win by ceasing to struggle against yourself. And as I finally allowed myself to do what I had never done before. Let go, I mourned. The energy of Berkeley and the morning of grace in London. There is something about Berkeley. Something about the air, the energy, the whispers in the trees that remind you. This place has held revolutions before. Some revolutions happen in the streets. Some happen in the mind. Mine happened in my heart. For so long, I had carried unspoken grief. Names that once felt like whispers in my mind, now felt like grace in London, a force surrounding me, protecting me. I had spent so much time that I had never allowed myself to truly grieve. Moving forward, building, creating. But Berkeley gave me the energy to surrender. And in that surrender, I finally spoke to them. Not in memory, but in presence. My protectors in the unseen. The only ones who truly understood. Grace and London, my eternal therapists. And in that moment, I realized something. I had not lost them. They had been waiting for me. To be still enough to hear them. The neuroplasticity theory. Reprogramming the self. UC Berkeley had given me something else. A framework. A formula. A new way of thinking that changed everything. Through my research, I uncovered a theory that explains how. The AI Augmented Neuroplasticity Theory, AANT. The mind, like AI, rewires itself continuously. And if the mind could be, then so could reality itself. Reprogrammed, because reality is the projection of, not fixed. The dominant neural pathways we reinforce. The key to escaping was not to fight, not to struggle, not to resist. The negative one, it was to reprogram the self from the source, to rewrite the identity script. To see that everything we thought was real was a construction, and if we built the prison, we could also destroy it. The sovereign man does not break chains. He dissolves them by realizing they were never real. This is why I wrote this book. Not to teach you something new, but to help you. Remember what you have always known. And that brings us to the final chapter of the illusion. Gemach DAO, Artificial General Intelligence, and the Crying Blockchain. As something strange has been happening, Gemach DAO continues to test artificial general intelligence. Not in the AI, not in the technology, but in the industry itself. There has been from the blockchain industry. Crying, wailing, as we continue to, as we witness as we push forward into consolidate after a Trump win, last gasps of the old world, the inevitable new paradigm. There is an energy in the air. A fear from those who do not want to wake up. Resistance from those who fear the decentralization of control. And in the midst of it all, I find my therapy and grace in London. They remind me, you are not here to convince. You are not here to fight. You are here to show those who are ready that they were never prisoners to begin with. Babble. And so, I give you this, the Manual of the Negative One, the Final Illusion, the book itself. You may believe this book is a set of principles, philosophies, and frameworks. Just another guide. But I ask you now, what if this book is the Manual of the Negative One? What if reading it was the final test all along? What if the battle only existed because you believed in it? Because in the end, there is only one question left. Do you and walk into your close this book forever sovereignty? Or do you re-entering the cycle, searching for what you already are? Open it again. The Negative One was never an enemy. It was only a mirror. And now, the reflection is yours to define. Welcome to the greatest show on earth. The choice is yours. Red circle. Close the book and live in your power. Or turn the page and begin again. Because in the end, it was always you. Wait! Berkeley, California GMAC DAO. AI Augmented Neuroplasticity Theory. Dr. Justin Goldston. Part 1. The Architecture of Control. Introduction. The Invisible War for Your Mind. For as he thinks in his heart, so is he. Proverbs 23:7. The concept of the Negative One. Fiction or reality. There are two types of prisons in this world. The first is the one we recognize: concrete walls, steel bars, and locked doors. The second is invisible, a prison constructed not of matter, but of beliefs, thoughts, and self-imposed limitations. This prison requires no guards, no locks, no chains, because those trapped inside do not believe they are imprisoned at all. This is the prison of the Negative One. But what is the Negative One? A force, a being, a psychological phenomenon, or something more dangerous, something that only exists because we allow it to. This book does not ask you to believe in supernatural forces, but it does ask you to examine one undeniable fact. There is an intelligence working against your highest potential. Whether you call it the negative one, the whispering shadow, the mind virus, or the great deception, this force operates in the same way. It does not need chains to keep you trapped. It does not need violence to keep you controlled. All it needs is your agreement, your fear, your hesitation, your belief in its power. Because if you believe you are powerless, you will never try to escape. This is the invisible war for your mind, and you have already been fighting it. You just didn't know it until now. The mind is a battlefield and the concept of psychic prisons. Goldston, 2021. The greatest deceptions are the ones you do not recognize. Dr. Justin Goldston, in his research on psychic prisons, argues that most people do not live in reality. Instead, they live inside a constructed mental world, an illusion built from limiting beliefs, past programming, and societal conditioning. Goldston, 2021. This is why two people can experience the same event, but interpret it in completely different ways. One sees opportunity, the other sees risk. One sees failure as a lesson, the other sees it as proof they should never try again. One believes they are capable, the other believes they are doomed. What is the difference? Their programming. People are not trapped by their circumstances. They are trapped by their perception of their circumstances. Goldston, 2021, page 43. This is what makes the psychic prison more effective than any physical one. A physical prison is external. It can be broken, escaped, overthrown. A psychic prison is internal, and a person who believes they are free will never attempt to escape. This is why the negative one does not need to attack you physically. It only needs to convince you that the walls around you are real. How the negative one builds your prison. The mind is a battleground, but the war is not fought with weapons. The war is fought with thoughts. The negative one does not operate in obvious destruction, but in subtle infiltration. The three phases of mental entrapment. Seeding the prison, installing limiting beliefs. The first step is implanting thoughts that weaken you. You're not good enough. You will fail. Success is for other people, not you. It's better to stay safe than to risk and lose everything. These thoughts do not start as absolute truths. They start as suggestions. But over time, repetition makes them feel real. Reinforcing the prison. Creating self-sabotage loops. Once limiting beliefs are installed, you begin to act in accordance with them. If you believe you will fail, you hesitate. If you hesitate, you miss opportunities. If you miss opportunities, you validate your belief that success is impossible. This becomes a self-reinforcing cycle. Maintaining the prison, making you defend your own limitations. The final phase is when you become your own warden. If someone tells you that you are capable, you reject it. If an opportunity arises, you talk yourself out of it. If you see others succeed, you convince yourself they had advantages, you do not. The prison is now complete. Because the negative one does not need to hold you down. You will do it yourself. Breaking the psychic prison. Recognizing the war. The first step to liberation is to see the prison for what it is. Every doubt is a suggestion, not a truth. Every hesitation is an attack, not wisdom. Every excuse is a weapon, not protection. Most people believe they are battling an external force. But the truth is, the real battle is internal. And once you recognize that the prison is not real, you become free. Your first test. Will you question your thoughts? Right now, as you read these words, there is a war happening in your mind. Part of you knows these words are true. Part of you wants to resist them. Maybe I'm different. Maybe this doesn't apply to me. Maybe I really am just unlucky. Maybe I should read a little more before I take action. These are not your thoughts. These are the prison's defenses. And if you do not question them, you will stay locked inside. Final revelation. This was never a war. It was a test. Lucian thought he was fighting an enemy outside of himself. But now, he realized, the battle was never real. The war existed only in his mind. And once he chose to reject it, the prison vanished. The -1 was never powerful. It only had the power that I gave it. And now, you are here. Reading these words. Seeing the deception. Will you reject it? Or will you continue the loop? Because in the end, it was always your choice. Next chapter. The Great Illusion. Why you are not free. How society, media, and institutions reinforce the prison. The illusion of freedom versus real sovereignty. My people perish for lack of knowledge. Hosea 4:6. Final thought. The war was never against you. It was always a test to see if you would recognize your own power. And now that you have, what will you do with it? References. Academic references. Campbell, J., 1949. The Hero with 1,000 Faces. Princeton University Press. Dweck, C.S., 2017. Mindset. The New Psychology of Success. Ballantine Books. Foucault, M., 1975. Discipline and Punish. The Birth of the Prison. Pantheon Books. Goldman, D. 1995. Emotional Intelligence. Why It Can Matter More Than IQ. Bantam Books. Hollis, J. 1993. The Middle Passage. From Misery to Meaning in Midlife. Inner City Books. Jung, C.G. 1964. Man and His Symbols. Doubleday. Kahneman, D. 2011. Thinking, Fast and Slow. Farrar, Strauss en Giroux. Nietzsche, F. in 1883. Thus Spoke Zarathustra. A Book for All and None. Penguin Classics. Biblical References. Proverbs 23:7. For as he thinks in his heart, so is he. Hosea 4:6. My people perish for lack of knowledge. Romans 12:2. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Joshua 24:15. Choose this day whom you will serve. 2 Corinthians 5:17. If anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old is gone, the new is here. 2 Timothy 1:7. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. Galatians 6:9. Do not grow weary in doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up. Philippians 4:8. Whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, think on these things. Luke 10:19. I have given you authority to overcome all the power of the enemy. Matthew 5:14. You are the light of the world. Goldston, J. 2021 to 2023. Unpublished manuscripts on psychic prisons, cognitive entrapment, and institutionalized fear. Goldston, J. 2021. Psychic prisons in the modern workforce. Unpublished manuscript, the Jack Welch Management Institute. Goldston, J. 2021. The Cognitive Entrapment Paradigm, How Thought Constructs Create Invisible Barriers to Success. Unpublished manuscript, Penn State University. Goldston, J. 2023. The Middle Passage of the Mind, Psychological and Spiritual Implications of Midlife Awakening and Institutional Deprogramming. Unpublished manuscript, Georgetown University. Goldston, J. 2023. Beyond the Matrix of Thought, A Framework for Mental Sovereignty and Personal Liberation. Unpublished manuscript, Texas A&M University. Goldston, J. 2024. Mental Prisons and Institutional Conditioning. Breaking Free from Thought, Constructs in Higher Education and Leadership. Unpublished manuscript, Cornell University. Goldston, J. 2024. Fear as a Social Control Mechanism, A Systematic Analysis of Psychological Entrapment. Unpublished manuscript, The University of Southern California. Additional concepts referenced. Baphomet as a Symbol of Inversion and Psychological Control. Occult History and Psychological Symbolism. The Manual of the Negative One, Philosophical and Psychological Warfare Framework. Midlife Awakening as an Initiation Crisis. Hollis, 1993. Jung, 1964. The Recursive Test in Cognitive Loops in Perception Management. Final note. The Combination of Psychic Prison Theory, Goldston, 2021 to 2023. Midlife Transformation Research, Hollis, 1993. Jung, 1964. Cognitive Entrapment, Dweck, 2017. And Biblical Spiritual Warfare Principles forms the foundation for this book's exploration into mental control systems, institutionalized fear, and subconscious self-sabotage. Now that you know the truth, what will you do with it? Chapter 2. The Great Illusion, Why You Are Not Free. My people perish for lack of knowledge. Hosea 4:6. The Prison of Conditioned Thought. Foucault, 1975. Goldston, 2022. Most people believe they are free. They wake up, go to work, pay their bills, consume entertainment, and make what they assume are independent choices. But what if their thoughts were not truly their own? What if the very framework of reality they operate within was not designed by them, but for them? Michel Foucault, 1975, introduced the concept of panopticism, a system of power where control is maintained, not through force, but through the internalization of limitations. In this model, physical barriers are unnecessary, because those within the system self-regulate based on the conditioning imposed upon them. Dr. Justin Goldston, 2022, expanded on this idea in his research on psychic prisons, arguing that most individuals do not recognize the unseen structures that shape their thinking, decisions, and perceived limitations. People do not need chains when they willingly obey their conditioning. The most powerful form of control is one that makes escape feel unnecessary. Goldston, 2022, page 78. This is why so many remain trapped, not because they lack intelligence, resources, or opportunities, but because they cannot see the prison they live in. And if you cannot see the walls, you will never try to break them. How the prison of conditioned thought is built. The prison of the mind is not created in a single moment. It is built over time, through a slow and deliberate process of conditioning. The following are the 3 key stages of how thought prisons are constructed. First installation. Limiting beliefs as programming. Conditioned from birth to accept predefined limitations. Socialized to obey authority without questioning. Taught that certain dreams are unrealistic or too ambitious. Example: a child naturally believes they can be anything. Over time, this belief is programmed out of them. By adulthood, they do not need external control, because they have internalized the limits imposed upon them. The moment you accept someone else's definition of reality, you have surrendered your ability to create your own. Goldston, 2022, page 81. Second reinforcement. Maintaining mental containment. Schools, workplaces, and institutions reward conformity. Individuals who attempt to break free are ridiculed, labeled, or outcast. The idea of breaking free from the system is seen as dangerous, rebellious, or impossible. Example: a person questions societal norms. They are quickly met with skepticism, judgment, or even hostility. The prison is reinforced, not by bars, but by social pressure to remain inside it. 3. Self-policing, the final stage of control. Once a person is fully conditioned, they defend the system themselves. They reject new possibilities and mock those who attempt to break free. They become the enforcer of their own limitations. Example: someone struggles with money, but ridicules those who seek financial independence. Someone is stuck in a cycle of negativity, but rejects solutions that challenge their worldview. A prisoner who believes the prison is their home will fight anyone who tries to show them the door. Goldston, 2022, page 94. The unseen barriers of the subconscious mind. If you were born into a mental prison, how would you know? This is the greatest deception of the negative one, to make you believe that your mental limits are natural. The subconscious mind is the most powerful force in shaping behavior. Psychologists have found that over 95% of human thought is subconscious. Kahneman, 2011. That means your fears. Most were not chosen by you. Your hesitations. Most were implanted in childhood. Your limiting beliefs. Most were programmed through repetition. Common subconscious barriers that keep people trapped. Scarcity mindset. There's never enough money, time, or opportunity. Authority worship. The experts know better than me. Fear of judgment. What if people think I'm crazy? Imposter syndrome. I'm not qualified to do this. Survivor's guilt. If I succeed, I will leave others behind. Perfectionism paralysis. I can't start until I'm fully ready. These are not natural thoughts. These are not absolute truths. These are installed programs, meant to keep you small. And if you do not question them, they will rule you forever. The Great Deception. The prison feels like safety. The greatest trick of the negative one is not to trap you, but to make you fear leaving. The safest place for those in power is a population too afraid to think for themselves. Goldston, 2022, page 102. You are told that security is better than freedom. You are told that following the system is the responsible choice. You are told that those who break free are reckless, dangerous, or unstable, and so you stay. Not because you have to, but because you choose to. The mind, once conditioned, becomes its own prison warden. Goldston, 2022, page 110. Breaking the illusion. Escaping the prison. Freedom does not come from fighting the system. Freedom comes from no longer believing in it. A bird born in a cage thinks flying is an illness. Goldston, 2022, page 118. The question is, will you stay in the illusion, or will you break free? Because the walls were never real. The limitations were never yours. And the moment you stop believing in the prison, you will see that it was never locked. Next chapter. The Hidden Influence, Psychological and Spiritual Warfare. How society, media, and institutions reinforce deception. Why the negative one thrives in mental blindness. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers. Ephesians 6:12. References. Academic references. Foucault, M., 1975. Discipline and Punish, The Birth of the Prison. Pantheon Books. Goldston, J., 2022. Psychic Prisons, The Hidden Structures of Mental Entrapment. Unpublished manuscript, Penn State University. Kahneman, D., 2011. Thinking, Fast and Slow. Farrer, Strauss and Giroux. Biblical references. Hosea 4:6. My people perish for lack of knowledge. Romans 12:2. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Final thought. The mind is the battlefield. The prison is your thoughts. And the only way to win is to see that the walls were never real. Chapter 3. The Hidden Influence, Psychological and Spiritual Warfare. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Ephesians 6:12. The unseen hand that controls the mind. Most people believe that power is external. They think control is maintained through laws, governments, and visible structures of authority. But what if the most powerful form of control does not require force at all? What if the real battle is not physical, but mental and spiritual? The truth is hidden in plain sight. Control is most effective when those under it do not believe they are controlled. Goldston, 2020. Page 51. This is the essence of psychological and spiritual warfare. A war not fought with armies, but with ideas. Not enforced through chains, but through beliefs. Not imposed through violence, but through mental deception. This is the hidden influence, and if you do not recognize it, you are already under its control. Baphomet, a symbol of inversion and deception. Throughout history, Baphomet has been one of the most misunderstood symbols. It has been labeled as a deity, a demon, a secret code, an esoteric mystery. But in reality, Baphomet is a symbol of inversion. The highest deception is to take what is good and twist it into something false. Goldston, 2020, page 72. The Baphomet figure, popularized by occultist Eliphas Levi, 1856, represents duality and contradiction. Light and dark, masculine and feminine, creation and destruction. As above, so below. Hermetic principle, 3rd century BCE. Truth and lies, merged into one indistinguishable force. This is not just a symbol. It is a representation of the great deception. Inversion is the key tactic of the negative one. Everything is flipped, distorted, manipulated. Freedom is framed as danger. Slavery is marketed as security. Fear is used to replace faith. Truth is twisted into illusion. This is why Baphomet stands as the symbol of the negative one. Because if you can control perception, you can control reality. Psychic prisons and mental slavery in modern institutions. Goldston, 2020. Dr. Justin Goldston, 2020, defines psychic prisons as systems of control that operate within the mind, entrapping individuals through conditioned beliefs rather than physical force. Goldston, 2020, page 89. In other words, people do not need to be physically enslaved if they have already been mentally enslaved. How institutions create mental slavery. Most institutions do not seek to free people. They seek to contain them within a framework of controlled thought. 1. Education systems. Condition students to obey authority, not question it. Teach information, not independent thinking. Program people to work within the system, not outside of it. 2. Religious institutions. Turn spirituality into dogma and control. Create fear-based obedience rather than true enlightenment. Make salvation dependent on external approval rather than internal transformation. 3. Media and entertainment. Distract the masses with spectacle and controversy. Create controlled opposition to manufacture fake rebellion. Flood society with fear to keep people mentally contained. 4. Corporations and workforce systems. Keep people trapped in cycles of debt and consumerism. Promote the illusion of career advancement while maintaining strict hierarchy. Reward conformity and punish innovation. Modern institutions do not seek to create free thinkers. They seek to create functional participants in a system designed for their obedience. Goldston, 2020, page 103. The negative one thrives in mental blindness. The greatest deception is not oppression. The greatest deception is convincing people that they are already free. If you believe you have already escaped, you will never seek the real exit. If you believe the war is external, you will never fight the battle within. If you believe you are powerless, you will never try to reclaim your authority. This is why the negative one does not operate openly. The darkness does not defeat the light. It convinces the light to dim itself. Goldston, 2020, page 117. And this is why most people never escape, because they are not looking for a way out. They are too busy defending the walls of their own mental prison. The final revelation. The war was never external. Lucian believed he was fighting against something, but now he realized the real war was inside of him. The true battle was never external. The true enemy was never out there. The greatest deception was the belief that there was a war to begin with. You are not a prisoner. You are never under attack. The moment you see the illusion, the battle is already won. Now you must decide, will you stay in the illusion, or will you walk into the unknown, beyond the walls of the psychic prison? Because once you see the truth, you can never unsee it. Next chapter. The science of self-sabotage. How the negative one programs you to stop yourself. Why fear-based thinking reinforces mental slavery. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power. 2 Timothy 1:7. References. Academic references. Foucault, M. 1975. Discipline and Punish. The Birth of the Prison. Pantheon Books. Goldston, J. 2020. Psychic Prisons and the Hidden Frameworks of Control. Unpublished manuscript. Georgetown University. Hermetic Principles, 3rd century BCE. The Emerald Tablet. Translated by Isaac Newton. Biblical references. Ephesians 6:12. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers. Hosea 4:6. My people perish for lack of knowledge. 2 Timothy 1:7. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. Final thought. The greatest deception was never what they hid from you. It was what they convinced you not to question. And once you question everything, you are free. Part 2. The Midlife Awakening. Chapter 4. The Crisis Point, when everything you knew collapses. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Romans 12:2. When the world you build falls apart, at some point, a moment comes when everything changes, not externally, not visibly, but internally. It is the moment when the illusion cracks, the moment when you realize that what you thought was real was never real. For some, this moment comes through loss. For others, it comes through exhaustion. For many, it comes through sheer dissatisfaction. But for all, it is the beginning of the awakening. Midlife awakening is not about age. It is about the moment when the mind no longer accepts the lie. London and Grace Goldston, 2025. This is the crisis point, not a breakdown, but an initiation. The midlife awakening as a spiritual initiation. Jung, 1964. Goldston, 2021. Carl Jung, 1964, described midlife transformation as the moment when the ego identity begins to dissolve. The first half of life is spent building a framework. Who we are, what we believe, what we think we want. The second half of life begins when that framework starts to collapse. This is why so many experience sudden dissatisfaction with career and life choices, a feeling that something is missing, without knowing what, an existential questioning of everything previously believed. Dr. Justin Goldston, 2021, expands on this concept, describing midlife awakening as a spiritual initiation process rather than a mere psychological phase. The moment of crisis is not the moment of collapse. It is the moment when the spirit demands something more, and everything built on false foundations begins to fall away. Goldston, 2021, page 57. This moment is not a breakdown. It is an evolution, and only those who embrace it will transcend. The phenomenon of realizing you were never truly free. Most people spend the first half of life believing they are free. Free to choose their path, free to define their identity, free to live as they wish. But then the moment comes. The moment when they realize every choice they have made has been within an invisible system. Every belief they hold has been influenced by the world around them. Every decision they thought was theirs was shaped by forces they did not see. Goldston, 2021, page 69. This realization is both liberating and terrifying, because it means that the life they have built was not truly their own. They were never truly free. And now, They stand at the crossroads. Do they continue living the illusion, or do they destroy it completely and step into truth? The three phases of midlife awakening. The collapse of the false self. The moment you realize that your old identity was built on external expectations. The loss of interest in societal validation, career-driven purpose, and artificial success. A growing sense that who you have been is not who you truly are. The dark night of the soul. Saint John of the Cross, 16th century. Hollis, 1993. The period of internal deconstruction. Everything feels meaningless. Old ambitions no longer matter. A deep, spiritual longing for something more. The rebirth of the authentic self. The emergence of a new identity, one not shaped by external forces. The discovery of a deeper calling. A return to childlike wonder, but with the wisdom of experience. True awakening is not about learning something new. It is about unlearning everything false. London and Grace Goldston, 2025, page, error. The moment of choice, stagnation or sovereignty. The midlife awakening is not automatic. Some people see the illusion, yet remain in it. They recognize the deception, but choose comfort over freedom. Others embrace the transformation. They choose to abandon the false version of themselves, pursue purpose over validation, step fully into their highest self. This is the real moment of choice. Midlife crisis is not a breakdown, it is a test. The universe is asking, will you evolve or will you cling to the past? London and Grace Goldston, 2025, page, error. The final revelation. You were never who you thought you were. Lucian thought he was losing himself, but now he realized he had never been himself to begin with. The identity he had built, the career he had pursued, the life he had structured, it was all a mask. And now, he had taken it off. You are not the past version of yourself. You are something new. And now, you must decide, will you live as your true self, or will you retreat into the illusion? Next chapter. The two paths, submission or sovereignty. Why most people choose to return to the illusion. The difference between awakening and stagnation. Choose this day whom you will serve. Joshua 24:15. References. Academic references. Goldston, G. and Goldston, L. 2025. The Midlife Awakening, Psychological and Spiritual Implications of Transformation. Unpublished manuscript, SidTech University Stacks. Hollis, J. 1993. The Middle Passage, From Misery to Meaning in Midlife. Inner City Books. Jung, C.G. 1964. Man and His Symbols. Doubleday. St. John of the Cross, 16th century. The Dark Night of the Soul. Translated by E. Allison Pierce. Biblical references. Romans 12:2. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Joshua 24:15. Choose this day whom you will serve. Final thought. The moment of awakening is not about discovering something new. It is about realizing that everything you thought was real was a carefully designed illusion. And now that you see it, the question remains, what will you do? Chapter 5. The Two Paths, Submission or Sovereignty. Choose this day whom you will serve. Joshua 24:15. The moment of decision. At some point in life, usually in midlife, every person arrives at a crossroads. A moment where everything they believed, everything they built, and everything they thought they wanted comes into question. It is the moment when they are forced to choose. Midlife is not just an age. It is the moment when you realize that you must either evolve or live the rest of your life as a shadow of who you could have been. Goldston, 2021, page 44. The first half of life is about accumulation, building a career, establishing an identity, following societal expectations. But then, something happens. For some, it is subtle. For others, it is violent. A crisis, a loss, a deep dissatisfaction. And suddenly, the illusion cracks. For the first time, they realize that they have been operating under a program, one that was not written by them. And now, they must choose. Will they continue living the illusion, conforming to what they were conditioned to be? Or will they step into sovereignty, reclaiming their true self and forging their own path? Why midlife forces a choice between self-actualization and deeper illusion. Carl Jung, 1964, described midlife transformation as a confrontation with the shadow self, the suppressed parts of our identity that have been buried under social conditioning, expectations, and past programming. Dr. Justin Goldston, 2021, further expands this idea, arguing that midlife is not just psychological, it is existential. The first half of life is about survival. The second half of life is about meaning. And the moment this realization occurs, you must either awaken or deepen the illusion. Goldston, 2021, page 61. The crisis point does not happen randomly. It happens because the false self can no longer sustain itself. The career-driven person who realizes success does not fulfill them. The parent who sacrificed their identity and now does not recognize themselves. The entrepreneur who achieved wealth but still feels empty. The spiritual seeker who played by the rules but feels no closer to enlightenment. Everything you thought would complete you has failed to do so, and now you must decide, will you continue chasing illusions, or will you find what is real? Goldston, 2021, page 78. The two paths, stagnation or awakening. At this crossroads, there are only two options: submission to the illusion, remaining within the system of limiting beliefs, societal expectations, and fear-based thinking. Sovereignty and self-actualization, becoming fully conscious, reclaiming personal power, and stepping into complete autonomy. Each choice leads to radically different outcomes. Path number 1. Submission to the illusion. Most people choose to remain in the illusion, not because they do not see the truth, but because freedom is terrifying. The old identity is comfortable, even if it is suffocating, even if it is false, and so, most people choose comfort over truth. Goldston, 2021, page 82. What submission looks like: denying the inner call to change, doubling down on old beliefs and patterns, blaming external circumstances instead of taking ownership, making excuses to delay transformation. People on this path often tell themselves, "I'll figure this out later. Maybe I'm just overthinking things. I should just be grateful for what I have." These thoughts are not theirs. These are the programs of the negative one, meant to keep them asleep. And so, they go back. They return to jobs that drain them. They maintain relationships that keep them small.
They drown themselves in distractions, consumption, and avoidance.
Not because they do not know the truth,
but because they fear what the truth requires.
Path number 2. Sovereignty and self-actualization. The second path is the road to awakening, the path of autonomy, consciousness, and truth. But this path is not easy. Choosing sovereignty means destroying everything that is false in you, and that process is violent. Goldstein, 2021, page 91. Those who take this path must be willing to dismantle old belief systems, face painful truths about themselves, walk away from people and institutions that no longer align, step into total responsibility for their life, and most importantly,
they must burn the bridge to their old self.
To become who you were meant to be, you must let go of who you were told to be. Goldstein, 2021, page 93. This is not just about career shifts or new habits. This is about becoming a new person entirely. A person who is unshaken by fear, unaffected by social conditioning, unapologetically themselves. This is the path of sovereignty.
And once you take it, there is no going back. The choice that changes everything. Joshua 24:15 states, "Choose this day whom you will serve."
This is not just a religious statement. This is a declaration of self-ownership. Every person must choose whether they will be ruled by fear, expectation, and illusion, or by their own consciousness. Goldstein, 2021, page 104. There is no middle ground. If you do not choose your own sovereignty, then someone else will choose for you. The final question: which path will you choose? Lucian stood at the edge. 2 roads. One led to comfort, safety, and illusion. The other led to truth, power, and awakening. He knew which one most people took, but now he had to decide. Would he stay in the world he knew, or would he step into the unknown, never to return? The answer would define the rest of his life, and now you must choose as well. Next chapter: breaking the false identity, the death of the old self. Why most people never fully evolve. How to dismantle the old self completely. If anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old is gone, the new is here. 2 Corinthians 5:17. References. Academic references. Goldstein, G. and Goldstein, L. 2025. The Midlife Awakening, Psychological and Spiritual Implications of Transformation. Unpublished manuscript. Sid Tech University Stacks. Hollis, J. 1993. The Middle Passage, From Misery to Meaning in Midlife. Inner City Books. Jung, C.G. 1964. Man and His Symbols. Doubleday. Biblical references. Joshua 24:15. Choose this day whom you will serve. 2 Corinthians 5:17. If anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has gone, the new is here. Final thought. The road to sovereignty is terrifying, but the road to stagnation is a slow death. Choose wisely. Chapter 6. Breaking the false identity. The death of the old self. If anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has gone, the new is here. 2 Corinthians 5:17.
Why people struggle to let go of who they used to be. Lucian had reached the final barrier. Not fear, not doubt, not even external resistance. The last battle was against his own identity. Everything he had believed about himself. Everything he had built. Everything he thought defined who he was. People do not fear change. They fear losing themselves in the process. Goldston, 2023, page. Gbot DATA. Because who are you without your past? Without your old struggles? Without your old beliefs? Without the stories you've told yourself for years? This is the deepest fear of all. Because once you let go of who you used to be, you step into the unknown. And most people would rather be miserable in familiarity than risk freedom in uncertainty. The necessity of psychological death and rebirth. Nietzsche, 1883. Campbell, 1949. Goldston, 2023. Friedrich Nietzsche, 1883, wrote about the 3 transformations of the spirit. A person must go through 3 stages to reach their highest self. 1. The camel. The burdened self. This is who you were trained to be. Conditioned to obey, follow rules, and carry the weight of societal expectations. Defined by what others think, what you were taught, and what you were told to value. 2. The lion. The destroyer of illusions. This is the stage of rebellion. You begin to question everything. You see that many of your past beliefs were programmed into you. The lion fights the illusion. But the lion is not the final stage, because fighting the illusion is still engagement with it. The true transformation comes in the 3rd stage. 3. The child. The rebirth into sovereignty. This is the final transformation. The child is not a return to ignorance, but a return to creation. The child does not fight the old system. The child builds something entirely new. The child is completely free from the past. The final step in awakening is not just to see the illusion. It is to become something that was never shaped by it. Goldston, 2023, page 47. Joseph Campbell, 1949, called this the hero's journey. Every transformation follows the same pattern. Departure, the call to adventure, the realization that the old life is false. The ordeal, facing the death of the old self, destroying past identities. The return. Rebirth is something new, stepping fully into power. And now, Lucian was at stage 2. He had seen the truth. Now, he had to let go of the past version of himself, the psychology of identity attachment. Most people struggle to evolve because their identity is attached to their past. They are afraid to let go because they do not know who they will become. The false self does not fear death, it fears irrelevance, and so it will fight to keep you trapped in who you used to be. Goldston, 2023, page 63. How the old self traps you. It reminds you of past failures. Remember the last time you tried to change? It didn't work. It keeps you attached to labels. This is just who I am. It fears the unknown. If I let go of who I was, what if I become nothing? The mind resists identity death, because it is not just a change of habit. It is the end of the world as you knew it. The final test, burning the bridge to your old self. Lucian understood now. If he wanted to become his highest self, He had to destroy his old self completely. This was not symbolic. It had to be real. Most people fail because they leave a way back to their past self. They evolve, but they keep the door open, and eventually, they return. Goldston, 2023, page 78. Lucian had to burn the bridge. He could not leave himself any way back to the illusion. How to permanently kill the old self. 1. Eliminate the old identity anchors. Destroy everything that represents who you used to be. Delete, remove, or distance yourself from things that keep you tied to the past. If an object, relationship, or belief reinforces the old self, it must go. 2. Make a declaration of death. Speak the words, "The old me is dead." Declare, "I am no longer bound by who I was. I am something new." 3. Take an irreversible action. Do something your old self would never have the courage to do. Make a move so drastic that it marks the point of no return. If it doesn't terrify the old self, it's not big enough. If you want to be reborn, you must ensure there is no way to resurrect the old you. Goldston, 2023, page 85. The final revelation. You were never your old self. Lucian had feared losing himself, but now he realized he was never that version of himself to begin with. The old self was a program. The old self was a construct. The old self was an illusion built by fear, conditioning, and expectations. And now, it was gone. True transformation is not just a change of perspective. It is the permanent destruction of the version of you that was built in captivity. Goldston, 2023, page 200. Lucian stood in his new identity. He was not who he was before. He was not defined by his past. He was reborn. And for the first time, he was truly free. Next chapter. The laws of freedom. How to stay untouchable. The 4 unbreakable laws of self-sovereignty. How to ensure the negative one can never return. Submit yourselves then to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. James 4:7. References. Academic references. Goldston, G. and Goldston, L. 2025. The Midlife Awakening. Psychological and Spiritual Implications of Transformation. Unpublished manuscript. Sid Tech University Stacks. Nietzsche, F. in 1883. Thus Spoke Zarathustra. A Book for All and None. Penguin Classics. Campbell, J. 1949. The Hero with 1,000 Faces. Princeton University Press. Biblical references. 2 Corinthians 5:17. If anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old is gone, the new is here. James 4:7. Submit yourselves then to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Final thought. You cannot hold on to your past and step into your future at the same time. One of them must die. Which one will you choose? Part 3. The Negative One and the Psychic Prison. Chapter 7. The Science of Self-Sabotage. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. 2 Timothy 1:7. Why people destroy their own success. Lucian had broken the illusion. He had seen through the conditioning. He had recognized the psychic prison that had been built around him. And yet, He still hesitated. He still delayed. He still found himself making choices that kept him stuck. This was the most frustrating part of transformation. Even after seeing the truth, he kept slipping into old patterns. Most people do not fail because of external resistance. They fail because of internal sabotage. Goldston, 2021. Page, Mupatamundra. But why? Why do people get in their own way? Why do they reject opportunities that could set them free? Why do they create obstacles where none exist? The answer lies in self-sabotage, not a flaw in thinking, but a system of control deeply embedded in the subconscious mind. How mental loops keep you stuck. Dweck, 2017. Goldman, 1995. Psychologists have found that the brain creates thought loops based on past experiences. These loops act as automatic programs that run in the background of the mind. If an action resulted in pain or rejection in the past, the brain associates that action with danger. If a behavior was criticized, ridiculed, or punished, the brain avoids it, even if it would now lead to success. If failure was experienced multiple times, the brain assumes it will always happen. The mind does not care about your goals. It only cares about keeping you safe. And if taking action feels dangerous, it will sabotage you before you can succeed. Dweck, 2017, page 85. These are self-reinforcing cognitive loops. They are not conscious. They are automatic. They operate without awareness, controlling behavior from the shadows. The three types of self-sabotage loops. Lucien saw it clearly now. There were three major self-sabotage loops that had ruled his life. 1. The protection loop. Stay safe. Avoid risk. Origin. Fear of failure, rejection, or embarrassment. Thoughts. What if this doesn't work? What if I look stupid? Maybe I should wait until I'm 100% ready. Effect. Perpetual hesitation, overanalyzing, and never taking action. 2. The identification loop. This is just who I am. Origin. Deeply ingrained self-perception. Thoughts. I've always been this way. I'm not the type of person who succeeds at this. Effect. Refusal to change because the brain sees new behavior as a threat to identity. 3. The guilt loop. I don't deserve this. Origin. Subconscious belief that success must be earned through suffering. Thoughts. Things are going too well. Something bad is going to happen. Effect. Self-destruction at the peak of progress to maintain internal balance. People do not fear failure. They fear what success will demand of them. Goleman, 1995, pagina 114. The Role of Psychic Prisons in Cognitive Entrapment. Goldston, 2021. Dr. Justin Goldston, 2021, describes psychic prisons as more than just limiting beliefs. They are fully constructed mental ecosystems that trap people inside their own thinking. These prisons are built through childhood conditioning, early lessons about success, failure, and identity, cultural narratives, what society teaches about what is possible or realistic, institutional programming, education, religion, and corporate structures enforcing compliance. A person trapped in a psychic prison does not need to be forced to stay. They will defend their own captivity because it feels familiar. Goldston, 2021, page Arbitrum. The worst part? Even when the physical world presents opportunities, even when the chains are removed, The mind still acts as if it is imprisoned. This is what makes self-sabotage so dangerous. Because it is not an external attack. It is the mind attacking itself. How to break free from self-sabotage. Lucian realized something. If self-sabotage was a loop, then breaking it required disruption. The manual outlined 3 steps to escape. Step 1. Recognize the sabotage pattern. The first step in breaking any prison is to realize you are in one. Goldston, 2021. Page 73. Lucian had to identify the self-sabotage loop that was controlling him. Questions to ask. What thoughts arise every time I try to step forward? What excuses keep me from taking action? What emotions make me hesitate? The loop feeds on unconscious behavior. By shining light on it, it begins to lose power. Step 2. Interrupt the loop immediately. Once a self-sabotage loop is identified, it must be broken in real time. Techniques to break the loop. The pattern interrupt method. Do something completely unexpected. Example. If fear says, wait until you're ready, take immediate impulsive action. The fear reversal question. Ask, what if this works? Instead of imagining failure, force the mind to consider success. The physical disruption technique. Move, change locations, shift energy. If you feel hesitation, stand up, go outside, break the mental momentum. The mind can only trap you if you allow yourself to stay still long enough. Goldman, 1995, pagina 129. Step 3. Replace the loop with a new program. Eliminating self-sabotage is not enough. It must be replaced with new programming. Lucian implemented the reversal method. Replace. I'm not ready with, I'll figure it out as I go. Replace. I always fail, with I only fail when I stop trying. Replace. What if this goes wrong? With what if this is my greatest breakthrough? For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, and of love, and of a sound mind. 2 Timothy 1:7. This was the final shift. Not just breaking the mental loop, but installing a new one. One that served his highest potential. The final revelation. Self-sabotage only exists if you allow it. Lucian understood now. Self-sabotage is not an enemy. It is not an external force. It is a choice. And once he stopped choosing it, it ceased to exist. The only thing keeping you trapped is your agreement to remain in the loop. Once you stop believing in the cycle ends. Goldston, 2021, page. Tornutra are. Lucian was free, because he chose to be. And now, you must choose as well. Next chapter. The perpetual loop of almost success. Why you always get close, but never quite make it. How to permanently break the cycle of near misses. Do not grow weary in doing good, for in due season you will reap. Galatians 6:9. References. Academic references. Dweck, C.S., 2017. Mindset, The New Psychology of Success. Ballantine Books. Goleman, D. 1995. Emotional Intelligence, Why It Can Matter More Than IQ. Bantam Books. Goldston, J. 2021. Psychic Prisons and Self-Sabotage. Cognitive Entrapment and Mental Liberation. Unpublished manuscript. Georgetown University. Biblical references. 2 Timothy 1:7.
For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. Galatians 6:9. Do not grow weary in doing good, for in due season you will reap if you do not give up. Final thought. Your mind is either working for you or against you, and once you take control, self-sabotage will never control you again. Chapter 8. The Perpetual Loop of Almost Success. Do not grow weary in doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up. Galatians 6:9. The pattern of near misses. Lucian had faced failure before, but this was different. This was not outright failure. This was always getting close, but never quite making it. The business deal that was supposed to happen, but collapsed at the last second. The breakthrough moment that felt inevitable, only to slip away. The relationship that seemed perfect, until it suddenly fell apart. The dream that was almost within reach, until circumstances shifted against him. It was a pattern. Not one or two coincidences, but a repeated cycle. And now, he had to ask himself, is this bad luck, or is something else at play? Why you always get close, but never quite make it. Most people assume success is a straight line. If you work hard, stay consistent, and push forward, you will naturally achieve your goals. But then, something happens. Just as they are about to cross the finish line, they are hit with resistance. Delays, sudden challenges, a wave of self-doubt, an unexpected setback, and before they know it, they're back where they started. Dr. Justin Goldston, 2022, describes this as the cycle of almost. Many people do not fail. They get caught in a cycle of almost success, a pattern where they continuously get close to victory, but never actually arrive. Goldston, 2022, page 57. This is not random. This is engineered resistance. How delays are engineered resistance. James 1:2-4. Goldston, 2022. James 1:2-4 states, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work, so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything." This is not just spiritual encouragement. This is a coded instruction on the nature of resistance. Resistance is not meant to stop you. It is meant to test your commitment. Goldston, 2022, page 71. If you are on the verge of a breakthrough and resistance hits you full force, that is not an accident. That is a test. The 4 types of engineered resistance. 1. The last-minute setback. Everything is working until suddenly it's not. The opportunity that was guaranteed collapses. The funding, approval, or support you needed disappears. You were so close, but something went wrong. 2. The internal fear spike. Right before a big moment, fear intensifies. Doubt suddenly creeps in. Am I really ready for this? Old insecurities resurface just when you need confidence the most. The mind sabotages itself with hesitation. 3. The distraction attack. Just before success, something urgent pulls your attention away. A personal issue arises that demands focus. A new opportunity appears that tempts you away from your original goal. Maybe this other thing is better for me right now? 4. The energy drop.
The closer you get to breakthrough, the more exhausted you feel. Motivation suddenly vanishes. Self-discipline feels impossible. Maybe I should take a break before I move forward. The goal of resistance is to make you quit when you are inches away from victory. Goldston, 2022, page 78. The Psychology of Near Misses. Why your brain accepts almost success. Cognitive psychology research suggests that near-miss experiences trigger a unique response in the brain. Carol Dweck, 2017, and Daniel Goleman, 1995, described this as the near-miss effect. The brain processes almost winning as a reason to keep repeating the same cycle, even if it leads nowhere. Dweck, 2017, page 94. This is why gambling is addictive. A slot machine spins and two symbols match, but the third doesn't. The brain releases dopamine as if it almost won. The person feels encouraged to try again. Even though they lost, their brain associates it with progress. The same principle applies to success. You almost close the deal, but it falls through. You almost launch your dream project, but something stops you. You almost break free, but self-doubt pulls you back. The brain internalizes the near miss as progress. And so, people repeat the cycle, thinking they are getting somewhere, when in reality, they are stuck in an endless loop. How to break the near-miss cycle. Lucian understood now. He had been stuck in a loop of almost success, and if he didn't break it, he would stay in that loop forever. The manual outlined 3 steps to escape. Step 1. Recognize that almost success is not success. Near misses are not progress. They are engineered to keep you chasing without ever arriving. Goldston, 2022, page 83. Lucian had to reject the illusion of progress. He would no longer settle for being close. He would no longer accept partial victories. He would no longer mistake activity for actual breakthrough. Step 2. Stop negotiating with resistance. James 1:4 states, "Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything." Resistance is not meant to defeat you. Resistance is meant to expose your level of commitment. Lucian realized something crucial. Most people do not lose because they fail. They lose because they negotiate with their resistance. Goldston, 2022, page 91. He had to stop justifying hesitation. No more questioning if he was ready. No more pausing to think through the decision. No more giving attention to distractions. He would act without hesitation. Step 3. Push through until completion. The only way to break the cycle of almost success is to go all the way through. No more stopping at 90%. No more waiting for perfect conditions. No more slowing down when resistance appears. Because the truth was simple. The cycle ends the moment you refuse to quit. Goldston, 2022, page 94. Lucian took a deep breath. He would never be in this loop again, because he had already decided to complete what he started. Next chapter. The decision that ends the war. The moment of absolute commitment. Why most people never escape, even after seeing the truth. Choose this day whom you will serve. Joshua 24:15. References. Academic references. Dweck, C.S., 2017. Mindset, The New Psychology of Success. Ballantine Books. Goleman, D. 1995. Emotional Intelligence, Why it can matter more than IQ. Bantam Books, Goldston, J. 2022. The Near-Miss Effect, Psychological Loops and the Illusion of Progress. Unpublished manuscript, Texas A&M University. Final thought. Near misses are not signs of progress. They are signs of entrapment. And once you see this, you will never settle for almost success again. Chapter 9. The Matrix of Thought. How every thought is a choice. Whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, think on these things. Philippians 4:8. Thoughts are not random. They are programmed. Lucian had always assumed that his thoughts were automatic, that the mind simply processed information on its own, that thoughts appeared randomly and without design. But now, he knew better. Thoughts are not random. They are programmed, and whoever controls your thoughts controls your reality. Goldston, 2021, page Gbot DATA. This was the real Matrix. Not a simulation made of computers, but a mental construct made of beliefs. And if Lucian wanted to break free, he had to start with the origin of his thoughts. The Thought Audit Technique. James Allen, 1903. Goldston, 2021. James Allen, in As a Man Thinketh, 1903, wrote, "A man is literally what he thinks, his character being the complete sum of all his thoughts." Dr. Justin Goldston, 2021, built on this idea, stating that most people do not think. They recycle old thought patterns that were implanted in them by institutions they never questioned. Goldston, 2021, page 43. Lucian realized something deeply disturbing. Most of his thoughts were not truly his. They had been taught to him by authority figures, conditioned into him through society, reinforced by fear, repetition, and emotional triggers. And because of this, his thoughts were not actually choices. They were scripts. How to perform a thought audit. Lucian needed to evaluate his thoughts. To do this, he had to interrogate them. He asked himself, where did this thought come from? Who benefits from me believing this? Would I think this if I had no past conditioning? Most people never question their thoughts. They simply accept them as truth. But the moment you begin questioning, the entire system begins to collapse. Goldston, 2021, page 59. The role of institutions in maintaining psychic prisons. Thoughts do not exist in isolation. They are shaped, guided, and controlled by the structures around us. Dr. Goldston, 2021, describes these as thought containment systems. These systems exist in education, teaching obedience rather than critical thinking. Religion, enforcing fear-based compliance instead of true spiritual growth. Media, controlling public perception through fear, outrage, and manipulation. Governments, encouraging dependence instead of self-sufficiency. Corporations, reinforcing consumer identity instead of personal sovereignty. A person who is trained to think within the limits of an institution will never challenge the system that enslaves them. Goldston, 2021, page 73. These institutions do not need chains to control people. They simply need to control their thoughts. The final realization. Thoughts create reality. Lucian saw the truth now. His mind was not his own. But the moment he took control of his thoughts, he took control of his entire life. Philippians 4:8 says, "Whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, think on these things." This was not just spiritual wisdom. This was a blueprint for reality creation. If he focused on limitation, he would experience limitation. If he focused on possibility, he would create new realities. The moment you choose your thoughts, instead of passively receiving them, you become free. Goldston, 2021, page 81. Lucian had broken the matrix, and now he could never be controlled again. Next chapter. Breaking the false version of you. Why identity shifts are necessary for transformation. How to kill the old self to step into full sovereignty. If anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old is gone, the new is here. 2 Corinthians 5:17. References. Academic references. Allen, J., 1903. As a Man Thinketh, New Thought Publishing. Goldston, J., 2024. Thought Containment Systems, How Institutions Control Human Consciousness. Unpublished manuscript, the University of Southern California. Biblical references. Philippians 4:8. Whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, think on these things. 2 Corinthians 5:17. If anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old is gone, the new is here. Final thought. You are either choosing your thoughts, or someone else is choosing them for you. Once you realize this, you will never be the same. Part 4. Escaping the Control System. Chapter 10. The Laws of Freedom, the 4 rules that make you untouchable. Submit yourselves then to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. James 4:7. The blueprint for permanent freedom. Lucian had seen the traps. He had exposed the deception. He had faced the negative one and broken free from its grip. But now, he needed something more. He needed to make sure he would never be controlled again. That he would never fall back into old loops. That the whispers would never return. This was the final phase. Not just breaking free, but staying free. Escape is not the goal. Mastery is. You do not want temporary freedom. You want unbreakable sovereignty. Goldston, 2023, page 99. This was where most people failed. They awakened. They saw the truth. But they left a way back to their old self. And eventually, they returned to the prison. But Lucian would not make that mistake, because now he had the 4 laws of freedom. Once mastered, the negative one could never return. And once these laws became part of him, he would be untouchable. Law number 1, absolute rejection of self-limiting beliefs. What you tolerate will eventually control you. What you reject completely can never return. Goldston, 2023, page 103. Lucian understood something crucial. The only thing that had ever stopped him was himself. Not the system. Not the negative one. Not bad luck. It was the beliefs he accepted as truth. I am not ready yet. I always fail. Some people are just lucky. I'm not one of them. This is just how life works. These were not truths. These were installed programs. A man who believes he is weak will never fight. A man who believes he is doomed will never try. A man who believes he is limited will never escape. Goldston, 2023, page 107. How to enforce Law Number 1. Step 1. Identify every limiting belief you still carry. Write them down. Question them. Ask, who benefits from me believing this? Step 2. Replace every limitation with an unbreakable truth. I am ready because I decide I am. Failure only happens if I stop. I create my own reality. There are no limits, except those I refuse to destroy. Step 3. Eliminate all sources that reinforce limitation. Cut off people who speak small. Reject media that feeds weakness. Rewire your mind daily with truth. Lucian erased every limitation from his mind. Now, nothing inside him could be used against him. The prison of belief was gone. Law Number 2. The power of non-participation. The game only exists if you choose to play it. Goldston, 2023, page 112. Lucian had spent years fighting battles that were never his, arguing with people who would never change, trying to prove himself to those who didn't matter, playing by rules that were designed to keep him trapped. But then he realized, the most powerful move is not to win the battle, but to walk away from it entirely. Goldston, 2023, page 118. If the -1 thrived on engagement, then non-participation was the ultimate weapon. How to enforce Law Number 2. Step 1. Recognize the illusion of the fight. Most battles are distractions. The more you engage, the more energy you lose. Step 2. Walk away from all useless conflict. Stop arguing about your beliefs. Just live them. Stop defending your path. Just walk it. Stop explaining yourself. Just embody the truth. Step 3. Reclaim all the energy wasted on distractions. Focus only on creation, not reaction. Speak only when necessary. Act with clarity, never in response to noise. Lucian stopped engaging with anything that drained him. And just like that, the enemy had no more power over him, because the game had ended. Law Number 3. The necessity of inner authority. A king does not seek approval. He does not ask permission. He does not wait for validation. He simply decides, and so it is done. Goldston, 2023, page 125. Lucian had been trained to seek external validation, approval from family, recognition from peers, permission from the system. But why? Because if his sense of self was external, then he could be controlled externally. Now he understood. The moment your authority is internal, no one can manipulate you again. Goldston, 2023, page 129. How to enforce Law Number 3. Step 1. Never ask permission again. Decide, move, act, without external approval. Step 2. Detach from all external validation. No longer seek praise. No longer fear rejection. No longer need recognition. Step 3. Make your word final. When you say it, it becomes law. When you commit, there is no negotiation. When you decide, the world adjusts. Lucian no longer asked the world who he was, because he had already decided. Law Number 4. Relentless forward motion. A moving target is impossible to catch. Goldston, 2023, page 135. Lucian had escaped. He had rebuilt his mind. He had cut all ties to limitation. Now, there was only one rule left. Never stop moving. The moment you slow down, resistance will try to pull you back. The only way to stay free is to keep accelerating. Goldston, 2023, page 142. How to enforce law number 4. Step 1. Always move forward. Never pause to overthink. Never wait for perfect conditions. Never hesitate when you know what must be done. Step 2. Never return to past cycles. Cut all ties to your old self. Burn the bridge to hesitation. Make retreat impossible. Step 3. Build unstoppable momentum. Small actions daily. No 0 days. No excuses. Only execution. Lucian had one goal now. To move so fast that nothing could ever stop him again. And with that, he had become untouchable. Next chapter. The Great Awakening. What life looks like after the negative one is gone. How people will react to the new version of you. Understanding your divine authority over the enemy. I have given you authority to overcome all the power of the enemy. Luke 10:19. Final thought. Most people escape, only to be pulled back. But once you master these 4 laws, nothing can touch you, and you will remain free, forever. Chapter 11. The Great Awakening. What life looks like after the negative one is gone. I have given you authority to overcome all the power of the enemy. Luke 10:19. What happens after you escape? Lucian had done it. He had broken the cycle. He had shattered the illusion. He had destroyed the prison of his own mind. And now, for the first time in his life, he was free. But freedom was not what he expected. He thought it would feel like euphoria. Instead, it felt like silence. No more resistance. No more fear. No more hesitation. For the first time, he realized the noise had been there his entire life. And now, in its absence, he saw what true sovereignty felt like. But the world was not ready for the new version of him. And now, he had to face the consequences of waking up. Why most people fear true freedom. Lucian assumed that everyone wanted to be free, but he was wrong. Most people do not fear captivity. They fear responsibility, because once you are free, there is no one left to blame. Goldston, 2023, page 153. Freedom means no more excuses, no one to hold responsible for your failures, no external force controlling your reality. Most people are terrified of this. They would rather stay comfortable in a system they hate, stay small in an identity they have outgrown, stay obedient to rules they never questioned. Lucian realized people do not stay in cages because they are locked inside. They stay in cages because they fear the unknown outside of them. Goldston, 2023, page 161. And now that he was free, the world did not know what to do with him. The rejection you will face from those still trapped in the illusion. Lucian expected people to celebrate his transformation, but instead, they feared it. They saw his freedom as a threat, because if Lucian had escaped, it meant they could too. And that was something they did not want to face. When you wake up, you expose the people who are still sleeping, and they will hate you for it. Goldston, 2023, Page 174. The 3 reactions you will face after awakening. First, rejection from family and friends. They will tell you you've changed. They will say you are going too far. They will try to pull you back into your old identity. 2. Discomfort from those still asleep. Your presence will make people feel exposed. They will avoid conversations about growth, change, or truth. They will try to convince you that you are being extreme. 3 attacks from the system institutions will not recognize you anymore. You will no longer fit into their structure. They will try to convince you to return. Lucian realized this was not personal. It was predictable. Because those who remain in the illusion will always resist those who have escaped. The final revelation: you are the authority now. Lucian read Luke 10:19 again. I have given you authority to overcome all the power of the enemy. And he understood. Freedom is not about escape. It is about stepping into authority. Goldston, 2023. Page 189. The moment he realized he did not need permission to be who he was. He did not need validation from those still trapped. He did not need to convince anyone to wake up. He was untouchable. And that is the greatest power of all. The world no longer controls you when you realize that you are the one who creates the world. Goldston, 2023. Page 195. Lucian had become something new, something unstoppable, something that the Negative One could never touch again. And now, so had you. Final chapter. The final axiom. It was always you. The moment you realize you are never powerless, you are not just fighting darkness, you are the light. You are the light of the world. Matthew 5:14. References. Academic references. Goldston, J. 2023. Breaking the System. Awakening from Mental Slavery. Unpublished manuscript. The University of Southern California. Biblical references. Luke 10:19. I have given you authority to overcome all the power of the enemy. Matthew 5:14. You are the light of the world. Final thought. The greatest power is not in escape. It is in realizing you were never trapped to begin with. And now that you see it, nothing can stop you. Chapter 12. The final axiom. It was always you. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. Matthew 5:14. The moment you realize you were never powerless. Lucian had spent his life fighting. Fighting fear. Fighting self-doubt. Fighting the illusion. Fighting the Negative One. But now, at the end of everything, he realized something shocking. I was never powerless. I was never under attack. I was never a victim. I was always in control. I just didn't know it. Goldston, 2023, page 204. This was the final axiom, the truth that no one tells you. The war had never been against an external enemy. The battle had never been against an outside force. The only thing that ever needed to change was Lucian himself. And now, he saw it clearly. The moment you stop believing in your own weakness, the illusion shatters. Goldston, 2023, page 211. He was never trapped. He was never under attack. The game was always within his own mind. And now that he had mastered it, there was no one left to fight. The true nature of self-sovereignty. Lucian had broken free. But freedom was not what he thought it would be. It was not something external. It was not a destination. It was not something given to him. It was something he had always possessed. He simply had to claim it. You do not become sovereign. You realize you always were. And from that moment, no one can take it from you. Goldston, 2023. Page 218. What is self-sovereignty? It is the unshakable knowing that you are the creator of your own life. It is living without fear, hesitation, or compromise. It is no longer waiting for permission to be who you are. It is understanding that every obstacle is an illusion. It is the end of resistance, because you are no longer resisting yourself. The sovereign man does not explain. He does not justify. He does not seek approval. He simply is, and the world adjusts. Goldston, 2023, page 226. Lucian had stepped into his own divinity, not as something outside of himself, but as something he had always been. You are the light of the world, Matthew 5:14. Lucian read Matthew 5:14 again. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. And now he understood. The greatest deception was never what they told you. The greatest deception was what you forgot about yourself. Goldston, 2023, page 230. He had spent so much time fighting darkness, but the darkness had never been a threat, because light does not fight darkness. Light simply exists, and the moment it does, darkness ceases to be. Lucian did not need to defeat the negative one, because the negative one was only powerful as long as he believed it was. But now, he knew better. The light does not conquer the dark. The light simply shines, and when it does, the darkness disappears. Goldston, 2023, page 239. The final revelation. It was always you. Lucian had reached the end, not of a battle, not of a war, but of a test, because the war had never been real. The fear had never been real. The whispers had never been real. They were only real for as long as he believed in them. And now, he no longer did. You were never in a war. You were never under attack. You were never lost. You only needed to remember who you truly were. Goldston, 2023, page 247. Lucian looked into the mirror. For the first time, he did not see his past self. He did not see the doubts. He did not see any trace of hesitation. He saw only light, his true self, sovereign, whole, untouchable, because now he understood. The war is over when you decide it is. The game ends when you stop playing it, and the moment you recognize that you were always the light, the darkness disappears forever. Goldston, 2026, page, error. Lucian smiled. He had won, because he had always been the one in control. Epilogue. The recursive test. What if this book was the manual of the negative one all along? What if reading it was the final test, and now you must act? The final challenge: defeat your own negative one. Reader's choice: close the book forever, or begin again. References. Academic references. Goldston, J. January 1st, 1926. 1. Unpublished manuscript. The Sid Tech University Stacks. Biblical references. Matthew 5:14. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. Final thought. The war is over. The fear was never real. The darkness was only an illusion. And now, you know the truth. It was always you.